Welcome back to the Sandwich Generation Pod, where we talk about the chaos, the love, and the how is this my life moments of caring for both kids and parents.
Basically, if you've ever scheduled a pediatrician appointment and a neurologist appointment in the same week, this podcast is for you.
We're your hosts. I'm Elisa.
And I'm Robin, and we're here to laugh, cry, and maybe stress eat a little right alongside you.
Today we've got a guest who brings so much heart and a lot of hope to this conversation.
Rachel Daugherty is the daughter of a woman who had Alzheimer's. She knows the heartbreak, the fear, and the grief that come with it. But instead of just bracing for the same fate, she's flipped the script.
Rachel is the brilliance behind bootyandbrains.co. And Rachel teaches people how to actually do something about their brain health. She helps us see that we're not doomed by our genetics and that taking care of our future selves can actually make us feel stronger and more energized right now.
She's here to show us realistic, evidence-based ways to protect our brains and our joy.
Rachel, we are so glad you're here. Great. Okay, thank you for being here because this is such a treat to have you.
Thank you both for showing
up
with such a wonderful energy. Y'all are lovely. I can tell immediately.
Well, thank you.
Our personal story is basically, we both have parents that have been declining and we both have little people in our lives. But when I got hold of your account, it was just like such a beacon of hope. It's like, oh, someone is taking this really dark subject and putting humor to it and levity and damn, I didn't know how much I needed that. I didn't know how much I needed to laugh about all of this darkness. But I just was really curious about the genesis of what you started doing. How did you start? What inspired you? And if you can share a little bit about how this has been a personal journey for you too.
So my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's back in 2019. And I think I posted something about this, about some parents, have set themselves up to have a plan and some parents haven't. And my mom was in the latter category. And so my brother and I just basically quickly scrambled to figure out what we're going to do. And we moved her to Asheville. Luckily, we were in a place where she could buy a house right down the corner. And my brother lived with her and we pieced together Caregiving, and this is she. And she moved here in January of 2020. So
okay, middle of the pandemic, also. Yeah. Yeah. Tricky time.
And it's when my kids were 4 and 8 years old, and so now my mom's living down the street, and we're all just doing our best. She also had bipolar disorder, which is just a whole bag of insanity, and my brother had, turns out, anger management issues, and we're just all doing our best. And we got to the point where he couldn't live with her anymore. It was too damaging to his mental health and therefore everyone else's health around him. And so we put her up in nursing care, and then long story short, she contracted pneumonia and died 6 months to the day that she went into nursing care. Oh, and wow. So I had this I've talked to many caregivers that have been caregiving for 5, 10, 15 years. And so I have this bizarro, luckily she, it's an awkward thing to say, right? That she died so quickly, but also there was an enormous amount of suffering for her and me and my brother, and then just the suffering ripple just was intense. Yes. And so there was a certain blessing in her dying so quickly. And so I feel like I had this whole extreme experience packed into 3-ish years when I started creating content. And there's lots of neuroscientists talking about Alzheimer's prevention. There's lots of doctors, there's other coaches, there's lots of people. And what no one was doing is bringing a degree of the sadness, the how hard it is, how awful it is needs to be heard, but isn't heard as much, right? Mm-hmm. What people want is to it's like access this information and through a different path, through a way that's not just like so sad. So sad.
Yes.
And so like I'm really careful to walk that line of like not diminishing the pain and diminishing how awful it is, and also trying to bring some levity, because man, it's deeply rough.
I think that just completely resonates with us, because that's exactly why we started this, because we felt like there was information, but it felt like the humanity was taken out of it.
Yes.
Also, it was like, we're going to websites. We're like, where are people on the places where we're at? Like, where are they on Instagram? Where are they, like where can we access this information, how we know how to access information, and in a way that is speaking to us, rather than
isn't
like
just
someone
like very
from the 80s.
clinical or very religious or very boring or very
Religious.
like, like it was part of when Robin and I started this. It was like, we want to make a podcast that we wish we would have stumbled upon, that like, even if I'm driving in the car and bawling my eyes out, I'm also laughing a little bit, or I feel seen, or I feel heard, and connect to in a way that that is in my life, that is in my sphere, and not like digging and calling these numbers that give me nothing actually to work with. Like, it's crazy.
Exactly.
It's like there's so much information and there's no fucking way to find it.
Exactly. And I think like the people that I pay attention to are kind of bio-optimizers, right? Like Peter Attia and lots of other neuroscientists and researchers and stuff. But I think once I got clear on who I want to help, which are the sons and daughters, adult children of people with Alzheimer's, I was like a lot of the people that need to hear this kind of message of empowerment aren't listening to Peter Attia. And I had to remember in my mind, I'm like, oh, everyone knows Gabrielle Lyon, everyone knows Peter Attia. And at the time I was like, wait, my sister-in-law, who is smart, educated, informed, yada, yada. And I was like, do you know who Gabrielle Lyon is? She's like, I don't know who you're talking about. I'm like, what about Peter Attia? She's like, I don't know. I was like, oh, not everyone knows what I think is everyone sees, because that's the circle I'm in, right? And so it's like, how do I bring this like bio-optimizer research, like tech, like more to people who are just need to hear it but aren't seeking that information out.
Thank you for bringing your knowledge of what's in your algorithm to ours, because that is such a way that we're like finding information these days, right? Is how tech changes. We're kind of at the mercy of it, and sometimes it's really helpful, sometimes it annoys the hell out of us, and sometimes you don't know what's true or not. But how you present makes me trust you instantly. Instantly, the information that you're putting out. And I think that goes a long way too. Then going to your website and seeing this like amazing company that you've built and how it's focused on training our bodies to train our minds, our brain health.
How did you decide where to put all of your power? Was it while you were caretaking? Was it after? And how did you focus and be like, okay, this is who I'm going to help. This is how I'm going to do it.
That's funny you should ask. So you can ask literally everyone in my life. Once I started seeing how changing myself and undergoing the shift that I came across, and changing my body and changing my mindset, and like once I went through that, and I was like, oh, this is big. There's something here. And I got like in the best shape of my life. I fixed my relationship with food. I was like, okay, this is big. And I was like, what is this?
Was that during your caretaking, or was that after?
So this is in like thinking about it, right? This is during caretaking, and I had more space, energetic space for it after she died, right? And I spent years marinating, like trying to figure out what this is. I was like, is this fitness? Is this weight loss? Is this weird path to like getting the dream body? And I was like, that feels gross. I can't do it. That's not what I'm doing. But like, nobody cares about Alzheimer's. Like in my mind the whole time, I'm like, nobody cares about brain health. They only want the body. And so like, how do I sell brain health? And I'm like going crazy for like literally years. I don't know why it took me so long. And I remember I was sitting with a group of my girlfriends. We were sitting around the fire one night, and I was like, okay, you guys, will you please will you tell me if this is weird? I was like weepy. I was like so vulnerable sharing this, but I was like, this is what I want to do. And my friends are all like bracing themselves. And later my friend told me that she thought I was going to ask her for money. She's like, and I was like, okay, what do you think of this? I want to help the adult children of people who have Alzheimer's. Is that weird? And they're like, no, that's totally normal, right? I was like, what is it? Is that? I was like, that's what I want to do. And once I got very, very clear on that, that's when I posted my squats post, and that's when everything exploded. But it was years of marinating, trying to figure out who I'm helping, what I'm doing, what this is, how, why, and all of that happened through caretaking and after my mom died. It was because it took a long time.
That's how I felt too with this podcast. Like, I did say it out loud a couple of times, and people were a little bit like, "Cool for you." That's not really, I love that for you, you know? Okay, next. And I was just like, oh, shit. Oh, shit. I love hearing that because I don't know, for other people that are listening that are also like caretaking and they're kind of younger, our age or whatever younger means. But, you know, I talk about this a lot, how I felt like I kind of reverse engineered. When my parents declined, I was like, how the hell did this happen to them? And what does that mean for me? When did this happen to them? What were they eating? What were they not eating? What were they not exercising? How do I change this for me? And it is all encompassing. It is like suddenly you're like motivated to change your own life. And if you have young children, you're like doing the math and you're like, okay, if my parents were declining in their 60s and I had my kids in my 40s, like I got like 5 seconds, you know, like how am I going to lengthen that time? So it really resonates like that. It is an all encompassing idea of like, I want to change how I change my health and how I want that to be a change for other people.
I was just ranting about how, you know, when your friends probably heard your idea about starting Booty and Brains and being like, yeah, Rachel, that makes sense because of everything that you've been through, you know? And like when Robin asked me about the podcast, and honestly, I think a reason that I didn't say yes to even hear you out for so long was because I knew that I wanted to be able to say yes to whatever it was, right? Like I knew my capacity at certain times was like not there. And even if other people in your life were like, sure, podcast sounds cute. I was like, yeah, totally. That makes so
Also,
much
it's about
sense.
A sandwich. Like what?
Yeah.
It's a sandwich. People really couldn't get past the sandwich.
Yeah. But my point is,
No,
like, you're
yes,
in
sorry.
this space, you are changed, right? Like
Yes.
the hardness of it, the pain, the mass amounts of confusion and time that you're spending trying to figure it all out, the big life changes, the move, the losses, like it changes us. And it does make us reflect on our own health. Maybe it's just therapy, but sometimes building something out of that feels really good.
Absolutely. And I was thinking about this for y'all, like, I assume we're kind of around the same age, that we are young for having dealt with this. And so we are speaking to it first. Like a lot of my friends, you know, her mom still watches her kids for the weekend. I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm like, what is that like? What is that like?
You have two sets of grandparents?
What?
I know. I'm like, are you telling me so they're not only not a burden, but they help you? That's amazing.
That's crazy.
I can't, it's just like not an option. So I should say my in-laws are very young, very healthy. And so I have one set of that. They're also very busy people. My mother-in-law actually, shout out to Amy. She cares for elderly adults in their farmhouse. So she has 5 clients, I think, at any given time. And so she's a caretaker like already. And
Amazing.
just like the best grandma, there's a whole load full of grandkids in our family. So, you know, sometimes I get like, I don't know if jealous is a word because I'm not like,
let's say
I think
jealous.
it's jealous.
I get jealous.
But I'm not like mad about it. But sometimes I'm like, lucky, you know.
I've also
Like,
fantasized about when I get really desperate. I'm like, maybe I could leave my kids with my parents. And then I'm like, abort. No. That's danger. I want to go back to when you were talking about the changes you made with your health. Walk us through that. What were the first things you were doing? Who were you researching? And what were the changes you were making? What were you before this?
I mean, so to be honest, I have always been into fitness my whole life. What got me started was one podcast from Peter Attia and him mentioning exercise can reduce your risk of Alzheimer's, and then me being like, avert, and not even realizing like that you could do things to reduce your risk. And what did I do? I reverse engineered it. So I was like, okay, exercise. Well, what does exercise have to do? I just kept asking like, how and why? I'm like, okay, well, exercise and gaining muscle help your metabolic health. I'm like, okay, well, what is metabolic health? And then like, well, what does muscle have to do with metabolic health? And then, okay, well, metabolic health is all about blood sugar. Okay, definitely heard the terms glucose and insulin before. I don't really know them. And like, so it just kept just bringing it back. And so I didn't start with like, well, now I have to exercise 4 times a week and for my brain, without putting together like, why, like what this means, and making it really, really concrete. And I think that's the difference between like trying to start a workout program or diet or whatever and being like, okay, well, this equals this. And so I'm going to do this to equal this. And we all know by now that like the like intense workouts, whatever, like the extreme diet, blah, 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 without the deep connection of understanding why, and deep connection to a reason beyond just aesthetics, like these things don't last. And so I've spent my whole life like trying to change from up here. And what I found, and I realized it's not just brain health. It's like whatever gets you there, whatever lens, whatever path gets you there. For me, it was Alzheimer's. For some people, it's like cancer scare. For other people, it's heart scare. But the answer always comes down to lifestyle, sleep, stress, exercise, diet, right? And I've always been trying to like do the things from this angle, and I never got down to the root of like why and how and how doing this for meaningful reasons. And that's what created change.
What did you start eating differently? Did you start exercising differently?
So what I realized is like how much there is to do, right? So when I kept diversing it back, I was like, okay, protein is important. Why is protein important? And so what I did not overhaul my diet. I started with breakfast. And so because I used to think like, well, I'm putting some mozzarella in my cheese and that is protein. I was like, well, let me just see how breakfast feels. And I changed my breakfast to minimum 30 grams of protein and eating within an hour of waking up. And then it wasn't just like doing that. It was doing that and then taking the time to connect to how it felt. And acknowledging the fact that my energy is way better, my hunger is way more stabilized, learning that like when you front load your calories, when you front load your energy, it makes it so much easier if you can help your body and give your body the energy it needs in when we need it during the day. This helps you much, much more later at night. And so all I did was start with breakfast. And then I was like, okay, this is a significant difference. And then I would add lunch, and then I just slowly grew it. And so I think this is why I speak to so much like around behavior change and small incremental steps, because I hate the laundry list of the things we need to do. You have to come at it down here. It's a different stance.
And then did you start like doing some lunges after breakfast or like?
then once I was thinking about protein, then I was like, okay, I'd always worked out my whole life, but I never looked like, as fit as I wanted. And so then I started learning about what does muscle do for me and how do I grow muscle? And so it was like, well, I got to feed the muscle and I got to use the muscle, and then I will grow the muscle. And so then I started working out in my basement. I mean, I've always worked out at home, but I've always I didn't really focus on using weights that really made it feel like I was working. Then I started focusing on like, okay, I need to feel like I'm actually really lifting. And so I had some dumbbells and I got heavier ones as I grew stronger. And so, I was working out at home and changing my diet. Yeah.
Okay, let's get a little sciencey. Okay. I want to ask you about, because I've heard a lot about this Alzheimer's is being type 3 diabetes, and about the idea of like exercising right after you eat. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. People like to use the phrase type 3 diabetes, but what does that mean? Like, I didn't even know what like diabetes meant. I knew like glucose and insulin, but I'm like the the glucose bone is connected to the insulin, but like I have no idea like what's happening inside. So here's what's happening. We're eating carbs, right? And we
I like
have
when you're a science teacher Rachel. Okay,
good. I like it too.
Go.
I'll make this like quick and easy, right? We eat carbs, we get glucose in our blood, and then our insulin has to come in and manage it. Our glucose is like can't just hang around in our blood. So our insulin comes in and manage it, and our insulin's job is to open the cell doors, like knocks on the doors, and the cell opens the doors, lets the glucose in, bada bing, bada boom. Our glucose is moved out of the blood into our cells. Great. The problem is that we have a constant influx of glucose. And it's not just from like the food we eat. It's from our stress. It's from our lack of sleep. It's not just food. So we have a constant influx of glucose, and our muscle helps basically absorb the glucose. But the problem is that we're having a constant influx of glucose and not enough muscle mass to handle it. And so insulin is having to work a lot, right? And so the reason this has to do with your brain is that our cells like to think of glucose like a Girl Scout coming to your door. And the first time that Girl Scout knocks, you're like, hell yeah, I'm going to open that door, right? No problem. But like the 400th time the Girl Scout comes to your door, you're going to be more resistant to opening those doors. And so that's what happens to our cells. They are resistant. They're like, I'm good. We're good. We're good on the Girl Scout cookies. And so it caused a whole host of problems. And the thing that made this connect is that this doesn't just happen in our bodies. There's a part of our brain, the hippocampus, some parts of our brain, that are dependent on insulin to open the doors. And so when the resistance happens, not just in our bodies, but that part of the brain, we get inefficient glucose uptake, like i.e., not ideal energy in the part of our brain responsible for memory and learning. And so we're getting damage over time. That's why there's not a cure for Alzheimer's. It's damage. It's accumulated damage. When I first started looking into Alzheimer's prevention and heard the phrase Alzheimer's is a disease of midlife, I had this erroneous idea of like, okay, well, it's this wonky gene and it just starts doing the damage in the 40s. And like,
yes, totally.
This is what I sound like in my head, by the way.
Yeah, that guy's in my head too. Thank you so much for letting him out.
So the wonky gene makes it bad. So like, no, the health of our body is directly translated to the health of our brain. And so if we have insulin resistance in our body, that's why Alzheimer's, not every case, but in a lot of majority of cases, is a metabolic disorder. And
glucose is kind of floating around in your bloodstream and it's floating around and it's not getting into the cells.
Well, so we need more insulin basically to entice the cell doors to open. And so now our body has to produce more insulin. And so that causes inflammation. Like there's a whole host of problems that come from that. And so there's other mechanisms that our body has to do and adapt to deal with the glucose, right? And so one of them is just increasing the amount of insulin to entice the cell doors to open.
And strength training and having muscle, the muscle mass does that, right?
More push-ups, more push-ups, more.
So, okay, so when we move, the whole reason I made this like squats post is that when we move after eating, once the glucose is in our bloodstream, our muscles, when they are contracted, they don't need insulin to open the doors. We contract the muscles and our glucose can just move right into it. So basically contracting your muscles soaks up, that's not the science term, but whatever, uses up the glucose so that our insulin doesn't have to. There is less work for the insulin, right, to manage the glucose because we are using our muscles to use it up. So that's why moving after eating is particularly very, very powerful for your blood sugar response because you're doing some work so the insulin doesn't have to.
This totally stuck with me too. Like I was, my friend Prue sent me you and what stuck with me was like that girl who does the lunges after the food. That was you, And so now after I eat, I'm like, that girl, I'm doing the squats after I eat. So now I do that. That stuck with me because there's so much information out there, so many things to do. And if you can just get one thing to do, It's so
Yeah.
helpful, right?
Yeah.
And I loved how you just made it so simple. You're like, you don't need any hardware. You don't need any dumbbells. You just need to literally like eat your 30 grams of protein and stand up and start doing 30 squats.
The whole reason I made that post is that there's a doctor that I follow, love, respect, has great information online, but they posted one thing about like, okay, the way to prevent Alzheimer's is don't have a big waist. I was like, that's not helping
Not helpful.
anyone.
Yeah.
That's not helpful information. I'm like, what can we do? What can I say? What tangible action item? So yeah, it was that post that I was like, what can I do to like actually provide value? And now like the goal with majority of my posts are like, how do I give people something to do, concrete, tangible action today? Like, and to show people how this is accessible. How do I make this as accessible as possible and
Yeah.
doable?
That makes a lot of sense to me too. I didn't have this in my pregnancies, but women that I do know that had gestational diabetes, that was one of the common denominators that all of them did after eating a meal was like to go on a walk or to get some movement in because they had to keep those blood sugars in check. That makes a lot of sense to me, I guess, as you're talking about brain health
And
or how it gets to our brain.
And I also love that you're sandwiched too, because I actually didn't know from your Instagram if you had. I love learning that you have young kids too. So we did a self-care is a scam episode because I just feel like, okay, who the hell is actually exercising in this stage of life and how are they fucking doing it? You know, like tell me the secret. So I want to know. I love the squats after the meal because I can do that. Sometimes I can do like 15 push-ups now, but I do them like sometimes I'm getting dressed and I like tell myself like drop down and give me 15.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what that looks like for you in your day?
Personally, I just love that you do that because I think that like a lot of people just forget that, you know, they think they need like an hour and, you know, you have to wear the right outfit. If you can't find the time to gym in the hour, there's lots of ways to squeeze it in. And I do the same thing. I do push-ups all the time. I keep a 50-pound dumbbell in my living room. And a lot of times, like, when I sit down at night with the kids, I don't do like a whole workout, but I'll pick it up and do some squats. Just finding these little opportunities. I race my kids up the stairs. I always take the stairs. I like what you said too about like, drop and give me 50. I think there's so many ways to make a game in your head. Right? Yeah. There's so many ways to like bring some entertainment and some silliness and some playfulness to it, because I think a lot of us have been scarred by like boot camp and exercise is the worst, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah. And dancing. I have some really good headphones and I just go off on dancing sometimes because it's just like really bringing joy into movement is important to remember. And that still counts, man. And I wanted to do a post of like, can I reach maximum heart rate by insane dancing? That includes like a lot of kicking and punching. It's like basically time dance. It's like, yeah.
That's just what we did with Tina Turner, by the way. I was at maximum heart rate with like 10 squats. So
go back to what you're asking. And sometimes like my workouts look like, okay, I'm going to do 3 sets of these of the arms and I'll come back to it later. I like working out at home and just like do everything I can to make it accessible and incorporated.
I feel like being in the sandwich generation and running a business, you know, caregiving, trying to like do all the things for everyone. I go back and forth by being like, oh, do I need a gym membership? Will that get me there more? Should I do this? Or maybe if I sign up for that. And I think that's what a lot of people do. And I have always found the most success with the smallest, simplest things and being consistent with them. And that's what I always have to remind myself. You know, we live in an instant gratification society too, right? Where it's just like everyone wants to see instant results.
Get like what you're saying, like just not distracted, but like hung up on like if I do this program, if I go to this gym, and like that will be the trick. That will be that will do it. I'm gonna turn it around. Like and what it always comes back to is just the boring basics, man. I eat practically the same breakfast every day. My workouts, like I'm doing the same work. I keep it simple and just acknowledge the fact that like this is a boring part of life. I think I equate it to like brushing our teeth a lot of times because like that's not fun or interesting. We got to do it. Like we got to do it. You know?
How do you do snacks? For me, the amount of times that I am literally like, I'm going to make you macaroni, but it's also going to be for me. And I'm like, don't do it, Robin. Do not eat 4 scoops of the macaroni. I know it's sitting on the counter, but you're not doing it tonight.
That's
You're
why.
not going to do it tonight, even though it's just the right amount of milk that you put in there. So it's really saucy. It's velvety.
Nothing's better.
And then there I go. And I'm like, I just took 4 bites. That's all I did. My husband comes around. He's like, oh, did someone else get into the macaroni besides the kids? Because it looks like there's a lot left. And then he'll do a scoop. And I'm just like, oh, yeah. Anyways, what are you doing for snacks?
For snacks, I'm just curious, when you're making the macaroni, is this like for just your kids during lunch, or is this their snacks? What's happening when you're making
it's macaroni all day, every day. It's bad. It's processed food all day, every day at my house. It's like corn dogs and macaroni and cheese. Okay, This is who we are. Do I want to be a cucumber, cottage cheese person? Yes, I do. Do I want my children to be like, we eat apples and peanut butter? Yes, I do. Are we those people? No, we're not. So this is what's happening.
That's
We're
great.
processed people.
You're doing great.
I have faith that one day they're going to be like, Mom, this is poison. And I'm going to be like, I know. That's all you wanted. And they're going to realize that other always be like, you've been poisoning us. I'm like, I know. Let's go get some cucumbers.
Because of that, I'm careful with my hunger, right? So like eating a huge breakfast. Someone commented, because I made this post around like I had the yogurt and I had the egg. She's like, do you eat both of those? I'm like, yes, absolutely. So I'm careful to really feed myself well, which makes those moments easier. I also crumble those moments occasionally, but it's always at the end of the day. It's almost always with dinner when my reserves are down, and it's during my witching hour, right? Like kids have witching hours. I'm my worst from like 4 to 6. So I'm careful to take care of myself, like preemptively make sure I have like one of my favorite protein bars at 4 o'clock. Otherwise I'm a monster.
So I love this idea of like, just because your parent has dementia or Alzheimer's specifically doesn't mean that it's hopeless for you. And I feel like that's really a huge part of your messaging that I loved, because when you do witness the diagnosis and you witness how terribly debilitating and a slow burn of sadness that it is, you think to yourself, like, is this inevitable for me? I've thought like, okay, I have to write myself notes. I'm going to make video diaries of being like, okay, when I start to not answer you quite right, go to the secret locket that I made upstairs and it'll tell you where I hide my medicine. I keep thinking, is this inevitable for me? Are my kids going to have to take care of me this way? But I love that your message is the opposite. Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts about like, are we doomed or are we not?
There are different figures, but from different doctors, but at minimum, 60% of cases are preventable. Also, another figure I heard is that only 3% are based exclusively on genetics. I don't know if you're familiar with the ApoE4 testing for the genetic markers of Alzheimer's.
Yep. The E4
I don't know. Yeah.
gene.
So
Yeah, we were just talking to a doctor about that, but we don't really know what that looks like to get that test. Is that
So,
like
I think
accessible
it's
to
genetic
people?
testing.
It's just genetic
Yeah.
testing.
Just genetic
Did you get the test?
no. So I have thoughts around that. So like cognitive decline is not a normal part of aging, and you can get this test, but I've thought about this. I'm like, well, if you get the test and the results are you have 4 copies and you do have an increased risk, what does that mean for how you're going to live your life? And if you get the test and you have a decreased risk, what does that mean for your life? Either way, I want to promote the brain-body connection. A lot of us are thinking that like our brains are disconnected and our bodies are just meant to kind of carry our brains around, but there is a direct correlation between the health of your body to the health of your brain. So whether or not you have a higher risk or lower risk, still the goal is to increase overall wellness for your body for now, right now, and that will correlate to your brain. And I want to empower people to not resign themselves, assume that it's going to happen, and not do everything that they can to increase their odds of not, because not only does that, decrease your odds of staying cognitively sharp, the way it allows you to show up more fully now is huge. So there is no risk here.
I think when you do go through a caregiving journey and you see your loved one, like how their bodies are changing or breaking down for various reasons and various different diseases or causes. I mean, that's kind of what we talked about in our self-care episode, was like, working out and eating right are not necessarily for vanity purposes either anymore for either of us, right? Like our experience with our parents has changed us in a way that it's making us look at our own health. It's not just about being fit. It's about having a more holistic approach to our entire life
Yes.
for the longevity of our life and whatever that may bring. But it sounds like what you're focusing on too is like, yes, you're talking about brain health, but what you're teaching is just, it's a win-win all around, right? But your program is only going to help in the aging process overall. Like there's no lose.
So I think like I have a hard time with some people online being like, take this adaptogen for your brain, eat the blueberries for your brain.
I was going to ask you, yeah.
Right. And it's not that those things aren't true. It's just that like, if you're going to take the adaptogens, but you're not addressing the lifestyle, it's like throwing a throw pillow on a dilapidated house, right? If you want to decrease your odds and if you want to age well with brain and body, it is a holistic, like it's a holistic picture. It is a lifestyle. And so that's why I speak to the relationship with food, the relationship with exercise, the like how we make this accessible and doable and all encompassing, because it's all encompassing. It's stress, it's sleep, it's food, it's exercise. And you cannot, none of those exist in a vacuum. I don't want to be another like voice in the zeitgeist of like exercise. I'm like, can we talk about why we're not? What are the limitations? What is happening? Let's address the behavior, because the behavior is behind the lifestyle. And that eventually is like brain health, but it's health.
Yeah. One of the questions we had for you is there anything that you see people doing right now that they think is helping their brain health or overall health, I guess, that might actually be harming it?
Not necessarily an action, but I think equating thinness to health is really is a dangerous place to be. My half sister, she's a lot older than I am, but she is at a very healthy weight, but she eats more clean than anyone that I know, and she's pre-diabetic. And that's because she has, even though she's at a very healthy weight, she's thin, she has no muscle mass. And my mom was also, she was a smaller person. She was like thin her whole life. And it's this mistake of equating thinness or a healthy BMI with health, with general health. And it's about helping people understand that muscle is not just aesthetic or a fun thing to have just to feel strong. It's giving yourself and your body like the equipment it needs. And so, yeah, there's not necessarily an action. It's just like an understanding of what health is.
I think about this all the time. Like when I see my parents, like very simple things, honestly, going to the bathroom, getting in and out of a shower, getting in and out of bed, walking with a walker or walking unassisted. And I know that they need these things, but over time, I've seen their strength deplete. Like being able to like hold a pan to cook, being able to wash dishes. It's like things like that I see personally. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, this is why we strength train. So that,
Yes, totally.
because I do want to cook when I'm older. I fucking love cooking. Delightful, you know what I mean? And I want to be able to hold that Le Creuset pan, you know?
And you will, girl.
Those are heavy.
And you will.
Yeah.
Actually, that would be a good Le Creuset.
Oh my gosh, those are.
If you lift those.
If you don't have a dumbbell, just grab a Dutch oven. But it's, it's those things that I see in strength training in the elderly community where it's like there, and in conversations with my parents' doctors too, where it's like, if you don't have the muscle, it's like your strength, it leaves you so fast. It's so fast. And then everything is so brittle. That's what
Everything's brittle. And like our muscle is a storage bank for amino acids. And so when we're recovering from surgery or sickness or illness, we can use that storage bank of amino acids to help us heal faster. This is why elderly takes a long time to heal. They have less of a storage bank. Yeah. So our body can hold fat, our body can hold carbohydrates, our body can hold those things. Our body can't hold protein. And so that's where our muscle is our storage bank. It's our insurance policy for when we get sick. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're sharper? Do you feel like your brain is functioning differently? What are the changes that you felt since you started making all these changes to your life?
I do notice a clarity and in my energy too. And that's just from knowing how to manage my blood sugar and giving my body really good equipment. So it's like the more muscle mass I have, the like looser I can be with my body. I can handle and tolerate carbs really well because I've given myself the equipment to handle and tolerate my carbs. I've noticed my energy is just stable, and the way I've shifted my relationship with food. I come to food as like not as like this like battle. Now I look at food as how do I give my body what it needs and to fuel myself well. And so now I feel fueled. So that has freed up a lot of mental space that used to be taken up with BS, man.
Yeah. Yep. Totally. I think we've all been there, right? If any of us grew up in the 80s, 90s, I think that was a lot of the messaging, around body image, body types, health, wellness, all of that. Lots of fads.
You kind of touched on this, but do you have any, so do you think supplements are, or do you think they're,
No, I don't think like they're crap. I just don't want people to think like, so I'm taking the creatine, so I'm fine.
Yeah.
Do you take creatine? Asking for a friend?
Yeah.
You just did a whole post on that. That was one of the ones that I watched recently.
Yeah.
I was super interested in that one.
I just got creatine pills, but I haven't taken them because I'm scared.
I highly recommend creatine. I highly recommend it. I can go off on creatine, but there's two that I highly recommend, which is creatine, and I recommend them because they don't do the thing. They like support your body. They so creatine is going to help you gain muscle mass, and it also, now there's lots of research. It helps with cognitive function. There's a lot of benefits to creatine, and omega-3s are also hugely important for your brain and body's function. So those are the two. I mean, you can really go down the rabbit hole with all things supplementation, but I really only focus on those two. I think those are the
I
heaviest.
love that. I love that you're just like two. That sounds great. Sounds so doable. Thank you. Did you talk to your kids while you were caretaking about Alzheimer's, and do you talk to them about what you're doing?
That's a really good question. No one has ever asked me that. When my mom was around, they were a lot younger then. And I explained she can't remember. And it was, it was weird for them. It was weird. And then, I talk about it with, they're like, yeah, mom, the protein. I talk to them a lot about blood sugar. I talk to them a lot about why I eat protein. I talk to them a lot about why it's so important to get muscle. I talk to them about it all the time. Totally obnoxious about it. But do you know why I make sure I eat really well and make sure I take care of myself really, really well? And like, why? I'm like, so that you don't have to take care of me. And I'm really, really trying to make sure I take care of myself, and it's clearly it's not a guarantee, but I'm going to do everything I can to, decrease the likelihood and to keep myself strong, because it was just like such a moment for me to realize I don't begrudge my mom. She did the best she could with information and tools she had at the time. But we now have better tools, and we now have better information, and I have an obligation. My health is bigger than me. My health is bigger than me, and it's the best thing I can do for my kids. So I talk to them about it a lot. They know all about protein.
I love that answer. That's one of my favorite things that you've said so far, because that's what's going through my mind constantly, is like nothing motivates me more to make these changes than the fact that I don't want my kids to inherit the same legacy. Right. I don't want my kids to have to do what I'm doing. And I would never hold it against my mom a day. Right. That's never been a thought in my mind. But I do feel a huge responsibility to them and to myself.
One thing we've learned quite quickly in the making of this podcast is that when Robin and I started our caregiving journeys, if you will, 4 or 5 years ago, it was like there was no information. It was so hard to find answers and to find consistent answers. And not that that's still not a problem, but there's so much more information available now. There's so many more tools available now than there were 4 to 5 years ago even. And I feel like in a short amount of time, people have started making things to make caregiving, aging, all of that a little better for our generation. And yes, we are all on the younger side of that, right? And it's been really hopeful, though, to be able to talk, whether it's with a lawyer, a financial person, like are people creating businesses and support, yourself included, that provide actual resources and access and answers in a way that I feel like 4 to 5 years ago wasn't as present as it is now. And I feel like we're also just like on the forefront of this cascade of America aging that's going to come in hot. It's already coming in hot, you know?
Having this podcast and giving people resources is really huge. And I think having more of a conversation around, I'm curious about this like self-care is bullshit episode that you were referencing.
Scam.
The scam. I think I'm also coming at this from a place of like, there was no conversation and I didn't know how dangerous it was because I spent years deficit spending and there was a reaction to that. Mm-hmm. There was a reaction. My mom died and then there was a reaction. It's not that I fully ignored myself. It's just that I didn't give myself intentional cup filling time in ways that's not just like go get a massage and make sure you work out. Like things that's just simple as now every day. I sit in the sunshine with no phone for 10 full minutes. Like just these intentional moments where you make sure to fill your cup in a way that's not like extravagant and takes a lot of.
When we're sitting here talking about brain health too, sometimes I'm like, I just want to like throw the phone away and I want the internet to go away. And I just like want to like sit in the sun and read books all day. That's all I want to do. I want to journal, sit in the sun, read books, drink lemon water. I don't know. But we're also living in this world where this is where we're at, right? This is how we're reaching people. This is how we're running our businesses. I mean, my photo business that's why I still on social media, right? Like it still matters, even though it feels icky sometimes to me. But I question how good it is for our minds to be spending so much time there, you know?
I go back and forth. Like I feel the same. Sometimes I just want to throw social media like in the trash. Like when you're in the state of constantly consuming information, even when it's good information, that is blocking you listening to yourself and you being with yourself. And even when it's like podcasts and things where you're learning, I think a lot of us, I'm like, well, it's a book. This is good for me. And like, it's still incoming rather than listening and being. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's tricky, man.
I know. That's something that we all deal with no matter what. Okay. So tell us, people are going to go to bootyandbrains.co. What are they going to find? Like your website, your business, off the social media. What are they going to find?
Right now I have a 28-day course. I'm going to change the formatting. Right now you can buy it as like a DIY and there's a communal component, but I think I'm going to change it to, I want there to be like a cohort and a cohesive community component. I'm going to shift it out. But right now it's a 28-day course and a lot of people love it. It's this approach of not overwhelming, of cutting through what's impactful. And kind of it's this arc of like giving you the big macro picture of what's happening with your physiology, along with mindset shifts around like how to keep showing up for yourself in a way that's sustainable and all taught in like 10-minute bite-sized lessons. Because I don't know about you, I've taught plenty of courses where I open up and it's like a 45-minute video and I'm done. Done.
Nope. No, exactly.
I love this. Okay, I just went to your Instagram, so you can really easily find it under your profile link. That's great. Okay.
Actually, because I talk so much about fitness and muscle, like the whole reason I made that course is that when I made that squats post, a lot of people were like, "What's an air squat?" I'm like, "Okay,
we're going back." Yeah,
I'm going back. I'm going to dial it way back.
Yeah.
Dial it way back.
Yes.
So I wanted to start with like basically the fundamentals and then shift more into fitness. And that just takes time and energy and all of those things to create. But I'll get there.
I love that. We'll definitely link that in our show notes. Yes. Okay. Can we leave with these fun rapid fire questions? Because I think that those are just fun and funny.
Okay.
Terrifying, but go.
What is one brain healthy food or snack that you always keep in your kitchen?
Mackerel. That sounds really annoying, but it's mackerel. It's like,
The
okay, my
fish?
thing- yeah, like so tinned fish, like sardines. There's a lot more noise around sardines, and I just think that's jumping into the deep end of tinned fish. Mackerel is like a little bit more approachable. It's a little like less fishy, and it's really like
Oh.
when I can't handle lunch, an avocado with mackerel is like the best. Eat
I
fast.
like that.
And that hits those omega-3s, right?
It's the omega-3s, you got the protein. It's good. I mean, it's not like, do I crave mackerel? Is it like, yum, yum, yum? No. But when I eat it, yummy is more internal. It's like, look how well I'm fueling my body.
Yes, yes. Love that. Is there a daily ritual or habit that you swear by?
Sitting in the sunshine for 10 minutes a day without
That
your
was
phone.
good.
That was good. That
Yeah, I
was
like
good.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm also just picturing you like in Asheville. You know what I mean? Like Asheville is such a vibe there. The last one is, what gives you hope these days for yourself, your clients, or the future of Alzheimer's prevention?
Oh, good question. That people are listening. I was scared to start my account because no one cared about brain health, and that turns out a lot of people do, and that people are picking up what I'm throwing down. That it's a lifestyle. That people are seeing it as a lens to overall wellness, and that increasing their quality of life now, and hopefully our cognitive future.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that you really did give me so much hope. You know, it ebbs and flows, the darkness, and, you know, I'm actively caregiving. And when I need to just like laugh or like just get some weird shit going on, I go to your account and I'm like, what's Rachel saying today? And in what voice? Because she uses different voices. There's different characters. Like, you guys don't even know what you're in for. I'm so excited for people to go to your account and check it out because yeah, it's such a treat.
It's such a happy little place on the internet that it hits close to home when you're in this phase of life, but it is a bright light out there in the world of something that is so hard. And so if that gives you any motivation to keep going when we feel, you know, downtrodden, in all seriousness, no, thank
so
you
so much. Yeah.
Seriousness.
In all seriousness. We're podcasters now. We say things like, in all seriousness.
Thank you
Yay.
so much. And yeah, hope you have a good rest of the day sitting in the sun.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully you can take away some helpful info and tips. All links and resources can be found in our show notes.
Please share this episode with anyone you think this might help. And if you have a topic that you'd like to talk more with us about in the sandwich generation world, please slide into our DMs on Instagram. Our handle is @thesandwichgenerationpod. We hope you'll be back for more convos with us soon. And remember, no matter whose diaper you're changing, you're never alone. That was great.
That was great. That was really good. All right. That was so fun. That was such a very fun, but also like beautiful, heartfelt conversation I feel like we had with her.
I learned a lot too.
Oh my gosh, I learned so much.
Yeah.
Also, just the reiteration of it really comes down to protein and strength and consistency.
Fucking
Those
protein.
three things.
Am
It's
I
like,
the only one who's over protein? Jesus. But I know. No, I know. We got to do it. Sorry. We should probably edit that out. Sorry.
It's fine. I can.
No. I'm here for it. No, protein's great. It's great. I'm the only person on the planet that doesn't drink a protein shake, though. I
don't
might
drink
be.
protein shakes.
You don't?
No,
Oh, I
no.
love you.
No, I don't. I don't
Maybe
feel like
we
that's
should
real
start.
protein.
Rachel didn't really talk about this, but like how when you're over 40, they tell you that your muscle you start to lose muscle mass, which
Yeah.
is so crazy.
Yeah.
That you're like, I'm just existing, doing nothing, and you're telling me that now my muscles are drying up? Jeez. What more do you want from me? I love how she is so realistic about like being a person on the go, being a mom on the go. These are the things that you can do right in front of you, and it doesn't have to be extreme. It can be gradual,
Also, like, you don't need anything. You can just stand up and do some air squats.
which I was thinking we should probably do them
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Right
yeah,
now.
because we did just have lunch, didn't we?
I know. Should we do them?
Okay.
Okay. Should we stay on our headphones? And just like this, so we can still talk. Okay, ready?
Okay, move my chair.
Okay, so what else? Do you want to cut? Do you want to...
30. 30 is like the magic number, right?
Do you want to
Okay.
count and I'll just keep talking?
I think we're on 6. 7
Okay.
maybe?
So yeah, I feel like,
How's it
if we can find the time.
Yeah, squeeze at the top.
Oh yeah, great. Okay. If we can find the time to do these. See, okay, what is this doing right now?
Shoulders
It's
back.
getting those glucose
Yep.
out of our bloodstream and into our muscles.
Aren't we opening a door? Like
We're
we're opening a door?
Opening a door. Insulin is coming and opening the door.
Something like that.
I hope you guys are still listening, because... And if you can't see us right now, imagine that we're squatting and then our heads get cut off every time we go up. And we have the microphones in our hands. I
I've
don't
lost
think-
count also. So
I'm not squatting appropriately.
I think we must be somewhere around 24, though, because that's when we get out
Okay,
of breath.
let's do 26. This feels like we're cheating. 27. 28. 29. I feel a burn. 30. We should have said do it with us. Oh my God.
But isn't that
feels
like your
good.
heart starts beating a little
Yes.
bit? You get a little breathy. I think the last thing that I would leave this podcast with is Rachel's comment on my health is bigger than me.
Yeah.
That was really good. Like that one hit me and that one stuck with me because at the end of the day, it really isn't about vanity. Like, listen, you go to any assisted living community, any nursing home, no one's exactly hot to trot in that space, right? Like we're all aging, and I'm just going to process that and think about that. But that was a takeaway. That was a line that I really appreciated from Rachel.
I also liked her sitting in the sunlight without her phone for 10 minutes every day. And just like whatever self-care means to you, but it doesn't have to mean spa day. It can mean just take the time for yourself. Okay, bye.